Hello everyone. Real quick before the video begins, I want to say that as the video progresses, you will notice the way in which I speak will change. This is because at the very beginning of the editing process, especially when I was recording all of my audio, I was trying to do everything in kind of like clear-cut takes, just clear wording, somewhat sounding professional, even though not intending to do so. As I was doing this, everything started to seem unnatural to me. It really felt like I was reading off a script, even though there was none. And my voice was becoming really monotone, a lack of emotion, and so on and so forth. So as the video progresses, I start going to my more natural way of speaking, especially how I train new players in the game. I felt it was far more important just to get these videos out to give you the information to be successful at this game. I'm not trying to build a YouTube channel or a career or even make professional videos. I'm doing this to give you the information to make you successful at this game. Foxhole has a very steep learning curve that even as a new player, it is very difficult to learn the game mechanics, the meta, everything about that. So that's why from here on out, I'll go into a more natural speaking. You may hear me stutter over some words like I already have in this, but I find it to be more important to give you that kind of information rather than make this all flashy and professional. To open your map, you hit the M key on your keyboard. To close the map, you can either hit the M key or the escape button. For those who may be streaming, such as Twitch or YouTube, it may be important to hide intel on the map. Intel will be described here in a few moments, but you can hide this by using the N key, which brings up the secure map mode. You can take this down by either hitting the N key or the escape button. You can also switch back to the live intelligence of the map by hitting the M key. To operate the map, you can left click with your mouse and move the map around by holding down that mouse button. You can also zoom in and zoom out of the map by using the scroll wheel on your mouse. Here is what we call the Warden home region. Each faction, Warden and Colonials, has a home region. The home region is where players will come to once they first log into the game. The home region provides many different aspects to it, such as a place to congregate with other players, to deploy onto the actual map itself from these locations here and here, as well as undergo tutorial systems in other parts of the map, such as down here to the south and up here to the north, given by these yellow icons. If you are a colonial player, your home region will look a little bit different, but you'll still be able to follow along. Now, to further explain this map, we are going to access what is called the State of the War map, which is located on these icons here in the home region. To access the State of War map, you will come to one of these structures here. And then from the bottom left-hand corner, you can see I can access it by pressing the E key. By accessing the State of War map, we can now see the entire map itself. Now, before we continue, there's two things I need to address. The first one is that the game is currently in what is called a resistance phase. A resistance phase is a period between two wars where players will either practice their craft of either fighting, doing logistics, and so on, or they will take a short temporary break from the game. Because of this, you'll see that some regions are currently grayed out, as they are not accessed to us. When an actual war starts, these areas will become available for us to use. The second thing I want to note is that your map will look completely different to mine is now. I'm using a mod that alters the look of the map. Mods are accepted into the game by the developers. Most of these mods are basically retextures or revisuals. They do not offer any actual benefit or advantage to the player who is using it. So if you're wondering why your map looks different than mine, it is because I'm using a mod that makes the map a lot easier to see on certain terrain features and roads and many other aspects. We are now going to look at some of the user interfaces of the map itself. The first one being the State of the War. which is the required victory points needed for a faction to win, indicated by these numbers here. Whichever faction gets the required number of victory points, which is by securing specific towns within a region, indicated by these hexagonal regions, they will end up winning the war. The next one we are going to look at is the map legend, which is this entire box right here. The map legend is pretty self-describable in what it does, such as showing bases, resource locations, structures, and so many other aspects. But to fully show off this map legend, I will zoom in and give you a better detail of what you can do with this. By zooming in, I can start to see more information on the map. And by using the map legends, I can deselect certain aspects of the map, such as the bases, the intelligence, or even the region zones. This can help ease up the clutter on your map, making it easier for you to see or locate specific objects or items that you want to locate on the map itself. You can also filter out more details in a much faster way. For example, I only want to see the green dots, which are colonial players. What I can do is I can come down here and click on the green dot, which will remove them. But if I hold the shift button and left click, it will remove everything else from the map legend except for those green dots. I can then hold shift and click again to bring everything back. I'll simply have to normally left click in order to bring them back as well. With this, you can be able to easily tell what might be a structure, or a defense, what might be players, artillery positions, and so many other things by simply clicking on and removing what you do or do not want. In terms of being able to see all you have here, which is all these blue icons and green icons, it's dependent on specific kinds of structures or items, such as these diamond ones, which are called watchtowers. A watchtower is essentially a watchtower. It activates kind of like a radar facility, in a sense. We are only able to see what's on a map when we have structures such as watchtowers, observation towers, safe houses, and bunker bases, so long as these safe houses and bunker bases have the proper upgrade to them. How they detect information is indicated by these white outlined circles around them. This is the radius of which they are able to spot items, players, or any other thing else on the map itself. This means that anything that's not within the range of these types of buildings will not appear on the map. As for example, you can see there is some fighting going down here on this bridge, indicated by the blue and green dots. Blue dots obviously warden, green are colonials. Now I know from my experience of playing this game, these colonial players are spawning down at this base here. But since we have no coverage down here, we cannot see these colonial players at all. This does not apply only to the enemy. If this entire area has gone dead with intelligence, meaning we cannot see into it, no white circles covering it, we cannot even see our friendly buildings, our friendly players, our friendly structures. We can only see what's on the map as long as it is getting intel coverage. There are two other ways that you can get intelligence. These are through a type of utility type item or vehicle. One of them will be a radio backpack or a jeep or perhaps even a scout tank that the wardens have. These can act as a type of mobile watchtower. Although they will not have these white circles that you will see, they can detect players, structures, and many other types of objects from a short distance, appearing on a map for a short period of time. Another method is what is called a listening kit. A listening kit is a tripod-based weapon with the actual listening device on it, meaning you need to have two pieces of equipment to use it. Typically, this requires a team of 2 players. If you manage to get a listening kit within a range of an enemy watchtower, you can then steal intelligence from it. indicated by this flashing green one. This is a colonial watchtower, but since the Warden faction has a listening kit within the range of this listening tower, or within the listening range, it is able to get the intel from the colonial watchtower. That meaning, if a Warden player or players manage to get a listening kit within the range of this base that has a watchtower covering it, and I do know that they will have a watchtower covering it, the colonials will, we can see what the colonials are doing inside that base itself. For our next topic, I had deployed onto the actual game map itself, and I'm actually located near the front lines of which I was showing you previously on the map. Now to help ease this process a little bit, I will be removing map posts, as this is something you'll probably do quite frequently in your gameplay. As these things will be posted all over the place, and as you can see, it can be very difficult to see what's going on the front line when they are posted. The item I'm going to talk about is this box located down here in the bottom left hand corner, which is a very critical piece of information that you should be aware of at all times. This box shows the region I'm in, indicated by the name Deadlands. It shows the current day and time in the game itself. Currently it is day 1211. This is because we just came out of an active war. And it's currently, what would I say, 1:30 in the evening, in the afternoon, and I am currently on the Able Shard. Now the most important information you want to keep an eye of is that below that where it says map intelligence was updated on day 1211, which is still the current day of the game, but the hour was 1116 or 11:16 in the morning. This means that currently what I'm seeing on the map, it's a couple minutes old. This is not what's currently going on the front line. In order to get a live up-to-date of the map, I will have to update my intelligence. There are two main ways to do this. The first way is to access a base by hitting E. This could be from a town hall, a bunker base, a relic base, and so on. These bases will be talked about more in a later video. By simply accessing the base with E, you can see here my map intelligence has been updated. I can then exit out of this, open the map, and see that the map itself has changed. Another way to update my map intelligence is with a radio or a radio backpack. By clicking on it as I did, I have put it into my utility slot, which means it is now currently activated. What a radio and a radio backpack does is that it updates my map automatically every 5 seconds, as you see here. I do not even need to be in the map for it to update. By simply exiting the map and waiting a couple of seconds and re-accessing the map, I can see it has changed again. Do note that radios and radio backpacks are very important pieces of equipment. Due to how Logi production is done, and Logi will be explained in a later video, these items come in low quantity. So if you are a rifleman on the front lines, you do not need a radio. Please reserve these items to more important players doing specific types of important roles, such as a squad leader, logistics driver, combat engineers, tank drivers and commanders, and so on. For they will need those items more than your common rifleman on the front line. For the final topic of today, I have returned back to the home region, and I will now show you how to actually deploy onto the map itself. In order to do so, we need to go to one of two locations indicated by these two icons. You will know you have reached these locations when they appear to be as an airplane hangar or a dockyard. To deploy onto the map, you will access these deployment zones with the E key. From here, you can see the general map that we have been looking at, but there are some differences, as we do not see any of the intelligence that we had before. Now, you probably notice that a little change with the map, and that's because the resistance phase has ended and a new war has begun. Just to give you that little bit of information. To deploy onto the map, you will use these gray diamond icons. Each diamond icon is a base that you can spawn onto. For the early parts of the war, this will be town halls and relic bases. As the war progresses, some bunker bases, which are constructed by players, can achieve an upgrade to allow you to spawn onto them directly. These icons show a bit of different information. The first one being the size of the icon. The smaller the icon indicates that there is hardly any players or there are no players near that area. The larger the icon shows that there are many players in that area. For example, here with these two little adjacent icons, which can be difficult to see. But this is a Logi hub, and again, Logi will be described in a different video. But this shows that there are many players currently in the region, or in that specific location. Icons will also flash colors, such as white circles right here. This means that there is some form of combat happening near that area. Now, the combat can be anywhere from just a few players shooting against a couple other few players, or it could be a massive large-scale engagement. This is why you want to use the State of the War map to determine where you want to deploy onto the map, because the information here will be too limited for you to be able to choose what you want to do, unless you already have a pretty good idea on what you want to do. Another piece of information you have probably just now noticed is by hovering over the icon itself, by looking at the friendly population. Friendly population is showing how many players are currently inside of a region. Here in the Land of Mercy, it shows a friendly population of max. But if we move to another region, such as here in Callahan's Patches, we see that the friendly population is low. This is referring to the population of the entire region, the entire hexagon of the region. Regions are only able to hold so many players. Right now that number is roughly 120 players for each faction, so 240 players total for both factions in the area. That being said, some regions can become what is called a queue, where no players can enter into the region. They must wait. For example, here in Deadlands, there is currently a queue of 10 players. So if I were to click on this gray diamond to deploy there, I will be put into a queue, indicated up here in the left-hand corner. This will show how many players are ahead of me. So currently there are 10 players ahead of me. That means I am 11th in queue. In order to get into the region, I must simply wait for 10 players to leave the region for me to be able to get into it. If I do not want to wait that long, I can simply hit the X button, leave the queue, and then look for a different location to spawn onto. Now, for example, to actually deploy, I have decided that today I would like to do some Logi, produce some supplies for the front line. So our Logi production is located up here to the north. And indicated by these large diamonds, I can tell that this is the Logi hub. Though again, you can use the State of the War map to determine that as well. I can simply just click on the gray icon, and I'll be put into a traveling/loading screen. And here I am at the location I decided to spawn to. Now say for example I wish to go to another location on the map, and I do not want to walk there or drive there, because that can take a very long period of time. I can hit the escape button, and I can click return to home, and then click return. Again, another loading screen, and here I am back into the home region. I'll simply go back to the deployment zone and choose my next location I wish to deploy to. Another useful tool for you to have is a website called foxholestats.com. This is a third-party website, but it is completely safe. And it gives you a lot of important information to help guide you on where you would like to go on the map. This can also be a very useful piece of information to track the progress of the war while not being in the game, just as being able to see what war we are currently on and how long that war has been going. We can see how many players are online. Now currently at the time of this recording, we are at the low pop hours of the game where there's not that many players. Typically, the population is much higher. We can see how many players are dying, or how many are dying per hour. We can see who currently has control of the most victory points, or who may have special storm cannons or radar facilities for bunker bases. From here though, we can see how many players are dying per hour. Using these numbers, you can sort of triangulate on the state of the war map. Essentially, I am seeing quite a few players are dying down here in Deadlands. Perhaps that's a region I would like to deploy to, but maybe that region is Q. What about Drowned Vale? Well, you can use the casualties per hour to see how intense the fighting is and be able to determine where you would like to spawn on the front line. There's also some other good tracking information you can use too. Now, one of the major benefits of this map is that it's interactable, where you can click on it. By clicking on this map, I can now see most of the intel that I had access to in the game. And I can even add more intel to it by clicking on these tabs up here at the top, by adding in other sorts of structures, resources, and minor labels and timers of when something had been taken or lost. For those who wish to do artillery later on in the game when they get more experience, there are some useful tools that you can do so, such as a ruler. Say, for example, we are assaulting this town down here to the south, and we have an artillery gun located at this crossroad. I can then left click, drag the mouse, left click again, and now I have the distance and the azimuth I need from our artillery to fire onto the town hall. Now, artillery will be discovered more in depth in a much future video as part of the advanced training. But for those who already have quite a bit of experience in the game and do not know about this unique feature, it is something I highly recommend you use. To close out this video, I will post some links down in the description of some more useful community tools. One of them is the official Foxhole Reddit. Now, yes, many will say, please don't go to this area. It can be pretty toxic, especially by what you can see here. But despite its toxicity, this is still a very useful platform for new players who do not understand something and wish to ask questions. Because when it comes to a new player, toxicity typically just completely halts, and people are more than willing to help answer your questions and help you learn the game. Another useful tool will be the official Foxhole Discord, as this will not be another piece of useful information or tool for you to have in order to ask questions and further learn about the game. In our next video, we will be talking about on how to use bases themselves, how they function, how you pull supplies, and many other aspects to that base itself. This now completes our tutorial/training video. My name is Mothic Von Helsing, or just a Mothic, and I'll be seeing you on the front lines.